The Khazari had ruled the northern wilderness of Kepler 442b for over 3 millennia, standing 12 feet tall with obsidian scales that could deflect plasma bolts. They were apex predators whose very presence could silence entire forests. Their 6 amber eyes could track movement across vast distances, and their retractable claws had carved through the hulls of countless starships. For generations, they had watched civilizations rise and fall, always maintaining their position as the untouchable sovereigns of their domain. When the first Earth colonization ships arrived 70 years ago, the Khazari expected another familiar pattern. The newcomers would either flee in terror after the first encounter, attempt to hunt them for trophies, like the Valorian hunters, or try to cage them like the scientific expeditions from Proxima Centauri. Every species followed the same predictable path: fear, aggression, or exploitation. The Khazari had learned to trust no one beyond their own kind. The initial contact went as expected. Dr. Sarah Chen's geological survey team encountered a young Khazari near the crystalline caves of Mount Theros. The creature, barely 8 feet tall and still developing its full armor plating, had been separated from its pack during a territorial dispute. When the humans stumbled upon it, injured and defensive, most of the team wanted to retreat immediately. The creature's warning growls shook the mountain walls, and its partially extended claws left deep gouges in the rock face. But Dr. Chen noticed something others missed. The young Khazari's left hind leg bore a deep wound, likely from a plasma weapon. Instead of backing away, she slowly removed her medical kit. Her team watched in stunned silence as she approached the snarling predator, speaking in soft, measured tones. "Easy there, beautiful. I just want to help." The Khazari's growls intensified, but Chen continued her approach, medical scanner in hand. The moment that changed everything came when Chen, ignoring every survival instinct, knelt within striking distance of the wounded creature. She extended her hand, palm up, showing she carried no weapons. The young Khazari's 6 eyes focused on her face, studying the strange absence of fear in her expression. For 37 minutes, they remained locked in this standstill, human compassion facing primal wariness. When Chen finally applied the healing gel to the creature's wound, something unprecedented happened. The young Khazari's defensive posture softened. Its growls faded to confused rumbles. For the first time in recorded history, a Khazari allowed itself to be touched by an alien species without violence. The creature's pack leader, watching from the shadows above, witnessed this impossible scene. The ancient protocols that had governed Khazari behavior for millennia suddenly seemed inadequate to explain what it was seeing. That night, as Chen's team made camp near the caves, they found fresh game left at their perimeter, a gift from creatures that had never before offered anything but death to outsiders. The young Khazari's pack had not only accepted the humans' kindness, but had chosen to reciprocate it. The first crack in 3,000 years of mistrust had appeared, though none of them yet understood how deeply this moment would resonate through both their species' futures. Word of the incident spread through both human settlements and Khazari territories, though each species interpreted it differently. The Human Colonial Council saw it as a promising sign for peaceful coexistence, while many Khazari elders dismissed it as an anomaly, a young one's weakness, nothing more. But Thane Ka, the ancient pack leader who had witnessed Dr. Chen's act of compassion, could not shake the memory of what he had seen in the human's eyes. It was something he had never encountered in 300 years of life. Genuine care for a creature that could easily kill her. The real test came 6 months later during the Great Burning. Kepler 442b's twin suns aligned every 7 years, creating electromagnetic storms that could incinerate anything caught in the open. The Khazari had survived countless such events by retreating to their deep cave networks, while most other species either migrated off-world or perished. This cycle, however, brought an unprecedented challenge. A human research station, New Prometheus, lay directly in the path of the most intense storm front. The 43 scientists and support staff had insufficient time to evacuate, and their underground bunkers were not designed to withstand the electromagnetic fury of the aligned suns. Colony Command had written them off as acceptable losses. But Dr. Chen, now serving as xenobiology liaison, refused to abandon them. She knew of only one place on the continent that could shelter so many, the sacred Khazari caverns of Darkspire Ridge. Thane Ka received Chen's desperate transmission as his pack prepared to seal their caves. Her request was unprecedented. No outsider had ever been permitted in the sacred chambers where Khazari young were protected during the Great Burning. The pack's initial response was unanimous refusal. These caves held the eggs of the next generation. To allow alien presence would violate every sacred law their ancestors had established. But Thane Ka remembered the young one's wound and the humans' fearless kindness. As the storm's first tendrils began lashing the landscape with deadly energy, he made a decision that shocked even his own pack. "We go to them," he announced, his deep voice carrying absolute authority. His lieutenant, Sekra, protested that such action would be madness. The storms would be too intense for even Khazari to survive in the open for long. The rescue that followed became legend among both species. Thane Ka led his entire pack of 27 adult Khazari across 15 miles of increasingly dangerous terrain as the electromagnetic storm built to its deadly crescendo. Their natural armor could deflect the smaller energy discharges, but each mile brought greater risk. By the time they reached New Prometheus, 3 pack members bore serious burns, and the station's hull was already glowing red-hot from the storm's intensity. What the humans saw next would forever change their understanding of these creatures they had feared. The Khazari formed a living shield around the research station, their massive bodies absorbing the electromagnetic fury while creating a protected corridor. One by one, they carried the humans, not dragging or herding them, but lifting them with surprising gentleness through the storm toward the safety of Darkspire Ridge. Dr. Chen, carried by Thane Ka himself, watched in awe as the great predator's armor began to smoke and crack under the storm's assault, yet he never faltered in his protective duty. The sacred caverns of Darkspire Ridge had never echoed with human voices. For 47 hours, as the great burning raged above, 43 humans sheltered alongside 27 Khazari in chambers that had protected countless generations of the pack's young. The initial tension was palpable. Humans huddled together, uncertain whether they were guests or prisoners, while the Khazari maintained vigilant positions near the cave entrances, their injured forms testament to the sacrifice they had made. Dr. Chen moved carefully through the caverns, tending to both human and Khazari, wounded with equal dedication. The storm had taken its toll on everyone, but 3 young Khazari had suffered severe burns during the rescue. Traditional Khazari physiology meant their natural healing was slow for energy-related injuries, and Chen realized her human medical knowledge might be the key to their survival. Thane Ka watched as the small human worked tirelessly, applying her primitive but effective healing techniques to wounds that would have left his pack members scarred for life. When she approached Keth Na, a juvenile Khazari who had been badly burned protecting 2 human children during the final sprint to the caves, the young one's parents initially blocked her path. Their protective instincts were absolute. No alien hands would touch their offspring. "Please," Chen said softly, showing them her medical scanner's readings. "The burns go deeper than your healing can reach. Without treatment, the damage will be permanent." She demonstrated on a piece of damaged cave crystal, showing how her nanite healing gel could repair structures at the molecular level. The Khazari parents looked to Thane Ka, who gave a slow nod of consent. What followed was a delicate surgery performed by human hands on Khazari flesh. Guided by technology, the predators didn't understand, but had learned to trust. Dr. Chen worked for 6 hours straight, carefully cleaning and treating burns that covered 30% of young Kethnar's body. The juvenile's parents watched every movement, growling softly at any sign of discomfort, but gradually their aggressive postures relaxed as they saw their child's pain diminish. During the long hours of confinement, barriers began to break down in unexpected ways. Dr. Maria Santos, a xenolinguist, discovered that Khazari communication involved complex harmonic patterns that human vocal cords could partially reproduce. Soon, simple exchanges were happening between the species. Questions about comfort, offers of food, expressions of gratitude. The human children, initially terrified of the massive predators, began to show curious interest in the younger Khazari, who responded with surprising gentleness. As the storm finally began to subside, both species had learned something fundamental about each other. The humans had seen that beneath the fearsome exterior, Khazari possessed a deep sense of honor and protection that extended beyond their own kind. The Khazari had discovered that these small, seemingly fragile aliens possessed a courage and compassion that matched their own ancient values. In the aftermath of the Great Burning, the relationship between humans and Khazari entered uncharted territory. The rescue at Darkspire Ridge had become more than just a life-saving intervention. It had created bonds that neither species fully understood, but both felt compelled to honor. Thainkar's pack established a permanent presence near the human settlements, not as guardians or overlords, but as something entirely new in their 3,000-year history, willing allies. Dr. Chen found herself serving as an informal ambassador between the species, her medical expertise having earned her unprecedented access to Khazari society. She was the first human permitted to observe their complex social rituals, to understand their sophisticated communication methods, and to witness the deep emotional bonds that connected pack members across generations. What she discovered challenged every assumption humans had made about these creatures. The Khazari were not mere predators driven by instinct, but a highly intelligent species with rich cultural traditions, complex family structures, and a sophisticated understanding of their world's ecosystems. Their apparent hostility toward other species stemmed not from aggression, but from bitter experience. For millennia, every contact with outsiders had ended in betrayal, exploitation, or violence. The Khazari had learned that trust was a luxury they couldn't afford, until now. The turning point came when a new threat emerged from the southern wastelands. The Devourers, a swarm species that consumed everything in their path, began moving north toward the settled regions. These creatures were different from anything previously encountered. They showed no intelligence, no mercy, and no capacity for communication. They simply consumed, leaving behind nothing but barren rock. Traditional colonial response would have been immediate evacuation, abandoning the surface to the Devourers while organizing a counter-offensive from orbit. But Dr. Chen proposed something radical, a joint defense with the Khazari. The idea met with fierce resistance from colonial command, who saw it as reckless endangerment of human lives. The Khazari Council was equally skeptical. Why should they fight to protect alien settlements? The debate might have continued indefinitely, but the decision was made for them when a Devourer scout swarm breached the perimeter defenses around New Eden, the largest human settlement. The attack came at dawn, with thousands of insectoid creatures pouring through the settlement's outer barriers. Human defenders, armed with energy weapons and plasma barriers, managed to slow the advance, but could not stop it. That's when Thainkar arrived with his entire clan, not just his immediate pack, but 67 adult Khazari representing 5 allied bloodlines. They struck the devourer swarm from the flank in a coordinated assault that demonstrated tactical sophistication beyond anything humans had imagined. The Khazari fought not as individual predators, but as a unified force, their movements choreographed. With deadly precision, Dr. Chen watched from the settlement's command center as the battle unfolded below. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying. Massive Khazari warriors moving like dancers through the chaos, their claws and armor proving devastatingly effective against the devourer's chitin shells. But what struck her most profoundly was the care they took to avoid human defenders in their path, the way they positioned themselves to shield civilian evacuation routes. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the devourer advance had been completely halted, their scouts either destroyed or driven back to the wasteland. Human casualties were minimal thanks to Khazari intervention, but the cost to their alien allies was significant. 14. Khazari bore serious wounds, and 2 had given their lives to protect human evacuation centers. As medics from both species worked to treat the wounded, Dr. Chen found herself standing beside Thane Ka, both of them exhausted from the day's ordeal. The great predator's armor was scarred and cracked, his breathing labored from exertion. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why did you risk so much for us?" Thane Ka's response, delivered in the complex harmonic language she had learned to partially understand, would be remembered as the moment everything changed. "Because you showed us that not all who reach for the stars reach with claws. Some reach with open hands." 6 months after the Battle of New Eden, the relationship between humans and Khazari had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. The joint defense had not only repelled the devourer threat, but had created a template for cooperation that other species were beginning to study and emulate. Colonial Command, initially resistant to the alliance, now proudly displayed holographic records of Khazari warriors fighting alongside human defenders. Dr. Chen had been officially appointed as the first interspecies relations coordinator, a position that required her to spend equal time in human settlements and Khazari territories. She had learned to read the subtle shifts in Khazari body language that indicated emotional states, to understand the harmonic complexities of their language, and most importantly, to recognize when these ancient predators were experiencing something entirely new to their species, hope for the future. The transformation was visible in countless small ways. Young Khazari, who had never before encountered aliens except as threats, now played carefully supervised games with human children in the neutral zones between settlements. Khazari hunters began sharing their knowledge of the planet's ecosystems with human researchers, leading to agricultural breakthroughs that benefited both species. Most remarkably, several Khazari families had begun constructing their seasonal shelters closer to human settlements, abandoning millennia-old territorial patterns. The moment that crystallized this new reality came during the Festival of Three Moons, a sacred Khazari celebration that honored their ancestors and welcomed new life. For the first time in recorded history, the clan elders voted to invite outsiders to witness their most holy ceremony. Dr. Chen and a small group of humans were permitted to enter the ceremonial caves of Mount Siros, where generations of Khazari had celebrated the continuity of their species. The ceremony itself was breathtaking. Hundreds of Khazari arranged in complex geometric patterns, their voices harmonizing in frequencies that made the cave walls resonate like musical instruments. The humans watched in respectful silence as the great predators performed rituals that were ancient when their own species was still learning to make fire. But the most powerful moment came when Thane Ka approached Dr. Chen during the ceremony's climax. In his massive claws, he carried a crystal formation unlike anything she had ever seen, a naturally occurring geometric structure that glowed with internal light. Through Dr. Santos's translation, she learned this was a heartstone, a sacred artifact that Khazari gave only to those they considered family. The implications were staggering. She was not just being honored as an ally, but adopted into the clan itself. You showed us that strength can be gentle, Thainkar said, his words carrying the weight of cultural transformation. That protection can come from those we once feared. Our ancestors taught us that trust brings death, but you have shown us that mistrust brings emptiness. The ceremony concluded with something that had never happened before. A formal alliance, declared not between governments or military forces, but between peoples. The Khazari Council of Elders and the Human Colonial Assembly signed an agreement that established joint colonies, shared research initiatives, and mutual defense pacts. But more importantly, they committed to raising their young together, ensuring that future generations would see each other not as predators and prey, but as partners in the vast tapestry of galactic civilization. As Dr. Chen stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station 6 months later, watching human and Khazari children play together in the settlement's central plaza, she reflected on how far they had all come. The great predators, who had once inspired terror, now served as teachers, protectors, and friends. Their faith in humanity had been earned through countless small acts of courage and compassion, but it had transformed both species in ways that would ripple through history. The moment predators found faith in Earth, people had become the moment. Two civilizations discovered that their greatest strength lay not in their weapons or technology, but in their capacity to see beyond fear and choose trust instead. In a galaxy where most species viewed each other through the lens of competition and conflict, humans and Khazari had proven that even the most unlikely allies could build something beautiful together. The ancient Khazari prophecy spoke of a time when star walkers would come with empty hands but full hearts. For 3 millennia, they had waited for these beings, never quite believing they would arrive. Now, as Thainkar often said in his evening meditations, they finally understood. The Star Walkers had not come to conquer their world, but to help them build a new one,